It's good to have you with us on this Monday evening. I'm Daniel Che, and let's start with the headlines. After burning the midnight oil in marathon talks, an agreement is reached at Brussels summit. Greeks accept tough reforms, and Eurozone leaders will formally negotiate a third bailout. President Park Geunhye has so far abstained from granting pardons to businessmen and politicians, but she may change her mind in light of the business community's growing calls for amnesty of corporate leaders. Both ruling and opposition parties seem determined to push for revolutionary reform. The Saenuri leader suggests a bottom-up style open primary for the elections to eliminate internal factions, while the NPAD consider abolishing the party's secretary general system to encourage new participation and overcome new challenges. After 17 grueling hours of talks, Eurozone leaders finally struck a deal with Greece, opening the door for a third bailout. But a tough road lies ahead for the cash-strapped country as the deal comes with the conditions that Greece enact bolder economic reforms. Our Da-eun starts us off.
The Eurozone leaders in Greece hammered out a deal at last that would allow the debt-ridden country and its creditors to start negotiations on a third rescue. President of the European Council Donald Tusk said Monday the Euro summit has unanimously reached an agreement and that a new bailout for Greece would involve serious reforms and financial support. At a press hearing held shortly after the Eurozone leaders' meeting, the Eurozone officials said that Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras accepted a compromise on strict German-led terms that include involvement of the IMF in its reform process and privatization of Greek assets worth up to 50 billion euros. The two are sticking points that Greece had strongly opposed until the very last moment. A deal has been struck, but it's going to be an uphill battle for Athens, as the bailout agreement contains tough austerity measures and needs to be approved by the Greek parliament by Wednesday. The measures require harsher reforms than the original bailout terms voted down by the Greeks through a referendum. According to media reports in Greece, Greek officials labeled the measures included in the agreement very bad, while some even called it a humiliation. All eyes are now on how the Greek leader is sandwiched between strong opposition from the public and greater pressure from its creditors will push through the enactment of bolder reforms. Da-eun, Arirang News.
Back here in Korea, President Park Geunhye, whose campaign pledges included a limited exercise of presidential pardons, is expected to exercise that authority for only the second time since taking office. Attention now focuses on whether the pardons will be granted to business leaders and politicians. Our Choi Yoo-sun has this report.
President Park Geunhye ordered her senior secretaries on Monday to look into the scope and subject of amnesty in time for the 70th anniversary of Korea's liberation from Japanese colonial rule next month.
국가 발전과 국민 대통합을 이루기 위해서 사면을 실시할 필요가 있다고 생각합니다.
President Park, who had pledged not to use her amnesty power excessively, has only carried out one set of pardons since taking office in 2013. Even then, she had excluded businessmen and politicians from the list. Korean presidents have traditionally granted pardons on national holidays to highlight national unity or economic revival, some of which were criticized for being privileges. A total of 52 pardons have been granted since 1980, with the current and past two administrations only granting special pardons that do not require parliamentary approval. President Park has promised to exhaust all means to allow Korean businesses to invest in order to revitalize the economy. However, the question now is whether or not she will grant pardons to the country's business leaders. Serving sentences for embezzlement and dereliction of duty include SK Group Chairman Choi Tae-won, his brother and Vice Chairman Choi Jae-won, and Hana Group Chairman Kim Seung-yeon. The business community has been calling for their amnesty, saying they hold the decision-making authority of their firms. But the president, taking aim at past administrations, had said that the public's consent should be considered. The business community on Monday said news of possible amnesty is very encouraging, and the political parties said they hoped the scope of the pardons will not damage the Constitution while working to unite the nation. Choi Yoo-sun, Arirang News.
Staying in domestic politics, the topic of reform has been dominating Monday's assembly. Ruling Henry Party leader Kim Moosung proposed a bottom-up open primary, while the main opposition NPAD also took its first step towards structural reform. Our National Assembly correspondent Park Geunhye tells us more.
In the press conference held Monday to commemorate his one-year anniversary as the party leader, Kim Moosung vowed to revamp the Conservative Party's candidate selection process for next year's general elections. He said the party will adopt a bottom-up open primary for the elections instead of the top-bottom style candidate nomination process, which he believes has been the root cause of internal strife within his party. Kim also proposed that the main opposition party adopt the same open primary on the same day.
Revamping the candidate nomination process can only be successful if both parties work together. I heard that the NPAD will carry out partial bottom-up selection and a partial top-bottom process. But I'm sure that's not what the public wants.
The ruling Conservative Party also designated its new floor leader. Four-term lawmaker Won Yu-chul, chief policymaker under former floor leader Yoo Seung-min, will look to earn his fellow lawmakers' official approval at Tuesday's general meeting and begin his term. Watchers say the 52-year-old earned broad support as he is not considered to be in the pro-President Park faction, but maintains a good relationship with the party's Supreme Council members close to President Park Geunhye. With his moderate and neutral stance, is expected to help resolve the party's internal conflicts and mend relations with the presidential office. Meanwhile, main opposition NPAD subcommittee on Monday voted in favor of a revision of its party constitution to abolish the party's secretary general system to increase fairness for new participants and tackle new challenges.
Reform is not an option for us. It is an unavoidable path for the survival of our party, for the sake of victory in next year's general elections.
The final decision on the party's structural reform will be made next Monday at another committee meeting. However, opposition and conflict are already rife within the party, opposing the ideas. Despite such opposition, the Liberal Party's Reform Committee has also suggested abolishing its Supreme Council system, which will be up for a vote in September. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Deliberation on the government's multi-billion-dollar supplementary budget plan looks to be a harsh battle for the National Assembly standing committees ahead of the main vote for passing the bill on July 20th. According to an analysis by the National Assembly Budget Office, 45 problems have been detected in 36 out of 145 detailed projects. Opposing opinions on the partisan level need to be tackled too. The ruling Henry Party wants to pass the $10.4 billion plan as it is. The main opposition, New Politics Alliance for Democracy, is demanding some $5 billion be cut from that proposal. The extra budget has been proposed early this month to lessen the economic fallout from the MERS outbreak and the ongoing drought. The United States isn't holding out much hope for a significant improvement in Korea-Japan ties, despite speculation the two countries are readying for a possible summit. The U.S. Congressional Research Service report also says that while the South Korea-U.S. alliance is very strong, it could come under strain depending on their strategies on Japan and North Korea. Our Connie Kim reports.
Relations between South Korea and Japan are unlikely to improve, even if the two leaders meet for a summit. A report from the U.S. Congressional Research Service on Monday said South Korean President Park Geunhye and Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe are locked in a vicious cycle, with the two differing in their approach to historical issues. Bilateral ties between Seoul and Tokyo have been at a historic low, mainly due to Abe's repeated denial of Tokyo's historic wrongdoings. Seoul continues to demand that Japan issue a formal apology for its wartime atrocities, including its sexual enslavement of Korean women during World War II. With the contentious historical issues still unresolved between the neighbors, the report says the two leaders might not address issues beyond North Korea's provocations when a summit is held. The two leaders have not met one-on-one since 2012. Washington assessed South Korea-U.S. alliance to be at its most robust stage ever. However, it stated that depending on how Washington deals with South Korea-Japan relations and strategies against North Korea, it could be put to the test. The U.S.'s biggest concern is North Korea's weapons of mass destruction, while Seoul puts priority on Pyongyang's WMD and promoting inter-Korean unification. The report added that Seoul's decision on whether to use its own weapons or bring in U.S.-made weapons will impact South Korea-U.S. alliance. According to the report, the possible deployment of the U.S.'s Terminal High Altitude Area Defense Battery on the Korean Peninsula has become a litmus test for Seoul's relations with China and the U.S. Washington says THAAD will deter North Korea's nuclear and ballistic missile threats, while Beijing says its radar could monitor mainland China. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
South Korea is calling on North Korea to respond to Seoul's plans to send back some of the North Korean crewmen rescued in South Korean waters. Seoul's Unification Ministry said Monday Pyongyang should swiftly respond to its plans to return some sailors back through the truce village of Panmunjom. South Korea's Coast Guard rescued 5 fishermen on a listing boat near the waters of Ulleungdo Island early July. 2 of the crew said they wanted to return to the north, while the rest expressed hopes of staying in the south. Pyongyang had requested that all 5 fishermen be sent back. Seoul says there has never been a case of South Korea returning a North Korean that expressed a desire to defect. In other news, the stock market meltdown in China has knocked more than 30% off its stock value in just 1 month. The Chinese government is pulling out all the stops to stabilize the market, but it remains to be seen whether its efforts will work. Let's turn to our Kim Min-ji.
A month-long market rout in China has wiped trillions of dollars off the country's stock markets. According to Bloomberg, China's market value in terms of shares came to about $6.5 trillion as of last Thursday. That's down more than $3.2 trillion since mid-June. To give that figure some context, it's more than double Korea's GDP. China's stock markets have been one of the best performers in the world, at one point even topping $10 trillion in market value. However, since the middle of last month, the main Shanghai Composite Index has tumbled more than 30% as investors began offloading shares amid concerns the market was overheated, as they were extremely overvalued while the Chinese economy was weak. The slump continued despite government action, from a suspension of initial public offerings to ease rules on borrowing money for trading to stabilize the market. The Shanghai Index fell about 6%, while the Shenzhen Composite Index, which tracks stocks in China's second exchange, fell almost 3% in a single day, erasing more than $330 billion. As China is the world's second-largest stock market by value after the U.S., the market rout is raising concerns among investors, as volatility could weigh down economies heavily dependent on China for trade. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Let's turn our sights to the tech realm now. Battle lines have been drawn for the latest smartphone war between Samsung and Apple. The companies will release their new sets of devices at an international trade show in September. So far, not much has been disclosed about Samsung's new baby, except that the Korean company will be showcasing a cross between a smartphone and a tablet PC, the Galaxy Note 5. Its arch-rival Apple is also expected to present its successor to iPhone 6s and iPhone 6s Plus with better features, possibly sparking a fierce competition in the already heightened smartphone competition. Samsung did not win many users from its latest tablet lineup, Galaxy Note 4 and Note Edge, as they were released close to the launch of the iPhone 6 and iPhone 6 Plus. Data by Strategy Analytics show the Korean tech giant is estimated to have acquired over 24% of the global smartphone shipments in the first 3 months of this year, closely trailed by Apple with 17%. Conditions for the electronics and IT sectors seem set to improve in the second half of the year, while the outlook is less than rosy for the manufacturing industries. This, according to the Korean Chamber of Commerce, which says electronics and IT sectors are expected to lead exports thanks to a growing demand in semiconductors, as well as the release of new smartphones. However, external factors such as the weak Japanese yen have cast doubts on the country's automobile and shipbuilding industries, which is being reflected in Korean manufacturers' sentiment regarding their sales outlook for the third quarter. The Business Survey Index for manufacturer sales outlook stood at 102, down 12 points from the second quarter. A reading above 100 means optimists outnumber pessimists. Manufacturers cited the MERS outbreak and a slowdown in the Chinese economy for the decline. Let's turn to some sporting news now. Korea's female golfers continue their run of seemingly winning every title in sight. This time it's Chun In-ji who has won the U.S. Women's Open, securing her first LPGA title at her first appearance at the tournament. The 20-year-old shot a 4 under 66 in the final round to finish at 8 under 272 at Lancaster Country Club. She finished one stroke ahead of fellow Korean Amy Young. Chun has 7 wins on the Korean Tour, including 3 in 2015. She also lifted the Japanese LPGA Tour Cup this year, becoming the first Korean since Shin Ji-hye to win all 3 tours in the same year. As well as taking home the winner's check for $810,000, Chun is projected to jump from number 20 to the number 10 spot in the women's world rankings. With the win, she becomes the 7th Korean winner of the U.S. National Championship after legends like Park Se-ri and superstars like Park Geunhye. And that's all we have for you for now. From tomorrow at this time, Hwang Ji-hye will be bringing you the updates you need. For one last time, thank you for watching.